Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
All right, it's the holidays. It is wherever we are in the holiday season. It's December. It is fun. Hi, Suzanne.
Yeah, I just wanted to sing, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." I wish I could sing.
Yeah.
I wish that when I sang, I blessed you, but I don't. So anyway, but yes, love the holidays. Hopefully you're up to your eyeballs and all the things holiday. And we just wanted to visit questions that have been kind of pouring in from parents on, all right, how did you guys manage the holiday season? How do you manage the holiday season? What does that look like? I've even read one that even said, how did you do it with 7 kids? I've just got 2 and I'm drowning.
I was thinking, for us, the holiday season was a really busy time because not only that, we had sports going on. It was basketball season. And so a lot of things happening. But really what we want to do in all this is we want to inspire you. So as we answer these questions, we want to tell you, hey, there is this way that the holidays can be amazing. And, just maybe some tips of what to do. And probably the first tip, one day at a time. Just one day at a time, and don't get too, if you have a bad day, get up and get ready to fight the next day. It's going to be another day. It's going to be okay.
And what does Scripture say? Do not worry about tomorrow, because today has enough worries of its own. Yeah. And so that's what I remembered that robbed me of my peace so much, was worrying about the next thing that was going to happen. Am I prepared? Do I have it together? And so I wasn't even able to enjoy the day I was living because I was so stressed about the days to come. And so I love that one day at a time. Just enjoy the day that you're in. By all means, prepare for for what is coming up, but maybe don't build it up to be too big.
There's a difference between preparation and worry.
Yeah.
And but let's go to the question. So let's so many times parents ask us, we get that question a lot, actually, especially during the holidays. Oh my goodness. And really just overall, I only have 2 kids. I can't imagine how you guys did it with 7. And sometimes we look back on it and we go, how did we really do that? But
one day at a time.
Yeah.
We did it one day at a time.
But so some of those
stressed about the other days.
And so some of those things are like, for example, sugar highs, parties, irregular routines. The holidays present so many new things that we don't do throughout the year.
Yeah, for sure.
How many times are you going to say yeah?
Well, because I wanted to back up just for a second and say managing holiday expectations. That's what I want to really highlight. That's what we're doing here. If you can think about that for just a second and think, okay, the reason that things go astray, that the reason that that my kid's having a meltdown is because there was an expectation there that couldn't be met. And whether it was your expectation or their expectation. And so how do we do that? And how do we help our kids cope with all the things that are coming at them, whether it's the emotions or the sugars that you are talking about. And so just know that for just a second, to stand in your children's feet and just think about what it was like to be a child in the holidays and to have all the things coming. Remember, their systems, their routines are all out of whack. They are I just remember so many times, even as a child, that I had these ideals and these expectations that were going to happen that couldn't possibly have happened. That my parents could not have possibly have made that happen. And so that's what we just, want to talk to you a little bit about today is how do we manage those expectations with our kids? And so the first thing you said, Dawn, was sugars, parties, do you remember what we did when it came to treats, around the holidays? Well,
I think one of the things that I just think that parents should do, and I think we did it too, is you kind of relax a little bit. That December is if you try to put all of the same structures that you put into, say, October, you're not going to win. I mean, there's just too much happening. If you don't relax it a little bit, then you're going to be, and that doesn't mean you have to have a free for all, but maybe the kids do go to bed a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe Sundays are a day you got to slow down. You can't keep going because everybody's going harder Monday through Saturday. And so, or maybe you look at your schedule. I just remember we would really try to look out. I mean, remember we went on a little mini vacation, our anniversary, November 23rd. So around Thanksgiving, we would always try to take we would go somewhere.
Just Don and Suzanne, not the
yes,
children.
But and a baby.
Yeah, but the baby didn't talk.
Yeah, exactly. And we would talk about, hey, what's coming up? What are we doing? And so just thinking about it, that may not be good for you guys. That may not be your method, but how do you make sure that, hey, how do we build in times of rest? So even if we have that terrible day, well, there's going to be maybe a little bit of rest coming the next day or that weekend or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And that even goes to the day-to-day, knowing that you're going to have a built-in rest day. Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I do remember doing is when it came to preparing our children for what was going to come is just having that conversation with them. And so, okay, you're going to go to a Christmas party. There's going to be a lot of yummy things. How many yummy things do you think that you should eat in that evening?
12.
And so then we'd start with, they would say 12, and then I would say 1. And they would say 10, and I would say 2. And we would get to a number where you try a few things. And if you try something and you don't like it, go ahead and spit it out. You don't have to eat that whole sweet thing.
And think about, as you're having that conversation, about the tone of that conversation. It's like, it can even be a game. Okay, how many do you want? 12. Okay, that's way too many. Okay, I want to say 2. You can turn it into, it doesn't have to be, so often I think when we get to presents and parties and all the things, there's so many opportunities to argue. There's so many opportunities to get frustrated with everybody. Instead, what if you kind of, your tone and the way you approach things, again, it's going to be a little bit more chaotic. And for some people that's really difficult, but still it was difficult for me because it just felt like our life was pretty chaotic anyway.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny. The same thing happened to me in summer because, the summer was so different.
With the routines, so going to school, doing the school.
Yeah. So summer was a lot so there was like 4 months out of the year. It's like, okay, this is not going to be the norm. And I had to get ready for that.
Yeah. So even talking to your kids, I mean, for sure, like even bringing your summer example in there, what is that? How are we going to spend our time in the summer? What's that going to look like? But let's go back to that. Let's go back to the holidays and even when it comes to like presents, I would say that we we worked hard to brainwash, and I want to say that in the kindest, nicest way, not bad brainwash, but suggest to our children the presents that they want so that they will get what they want. Yeah. And so, as we were looking through I loved the little catalogs that they would get in the mail, and I would let them take a marker and circle everything they wanted, anything, and everybody had a different color marker so we knew. And then we would go back through and we would say, well, why would this be a good one? Why is this not? How can we play with our siblings on this? And what would you do with this? It's got a bunch of tiny pieces, and what if your brother eats it? And so we would kind of, once again, managing those expectations, because reality is, parents, don't we want more than anything else to delight our children on Christmas morning? To have a child get exactly what they want, and their reaction is priceless. And so we just work so hard to do that. And I think of all the stories of the siblings. I think that I think your brother even had a story like, is this it? Is this all we've got?
Yeah. As they looked at the catalog, Suzanne had one of those hypnosis balls that she did in front of them.
You want this.
But what Suzanne's saying is that, I think there's so much in there, like, okay, I'm going to go a different route with presents, but I'm going to kind of, but what she did is just not limit them at first to say, hey, yeah, circle that, whatever you want. And it's true, like even now with our grandkids, they come over and we give them not the same catalog, but a different catalog, and like circle what you want, and they circle everything. And then it just brings these great discussions, which, we've talked all year about relationships. And so then you'd say, well, gosh, that's amazing. You want a lot of things. why do you want that? Or, you know,
Right.
what do you want that? You know, why
Yes.
do you want that? And now you start, oh, well, I want this because we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. That's amazing, you know. And you're like, well, what? And I think then it gets into our fears of, oh, well, there's no way I could ever deliver to them their back to Suzanne, are we creating expectations? No, they're 5-year-olds. Let them dream.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Let them dream. And they're not going to remember. And if you, on the back end of it, if they say, oh, I didn't get this or I really wanted that, then your birthday's coming up. We'll do that for your birthday. Yeah. Or, okay, you got a little bit of Christmas money. We'll go, you know, make that happen. But yeah, that's one of the.
And I think another, but what I was going to say is also, so that's one thing is just to, you know, let them dream or whatever. But then have them also be thinking about when they say, well, I want this and I want that. Well, what about your brother? What do you think we should get your brother? You know, and you get them to start thinking about their siblings.
Or what would you want to play with your sibling? What's something that you would want to include them with? Yeah,
because
I love
think that, you know, even when you go shopping and they, you know, some people say when we go shopping, they always want, so, well, what can I get now? And actually Christmas is this great time because when they say they want it, you're like, oh, well, you know, maybe we'll get that for Christmas and you can defer them. But also, you know, as you take them shopping for their sibling or you take them shopping for dad or mom or whatever, there's so many ways to deflect their interest. And Christmas is just a time that you can get them to start thinking about others as well as themselves.
I love that. And so another area of managing expectations is if you're traveling and you're sleeping in new places. I remember us sleeping. We didn't really travel around the holidays, but on vacations back in the day, they didn't have Airbnbs. And so we would all be in one hotel room, and it was not fun. I mean, we put kids in the bathtub. We put kids in the closet. I mean, we just found places everywhere we could for them. And I just remember the win that we had in that was, you know, we get to camp out. We get to all be in one room. We get to hang out as a family. And then bring your one thing, bring like your blanket or your pillow, or bring your one thing that's going to remind you of home. And so,
and sometimes you go to in-laws' house. In-laws house. Is that to say that right? And there's different rules there. You know, it could be that now. It could be that, you know, you have a home that is pretty organized, maybe, and healthy, and then you go to grandma's house, and it's not nearly as they let them do whatever they want.
Yes.
Yeah. Or I'm seeing other things where I'm seeing grandparents come to me and say, "Oh my goodness." When my child brings the grandkids over to my house, it is chaos. They never get on to them.
Right.
They never do things. So you've got conflicts that can go both ways. And again, one thing is it's different. It's, you know, going to the in-laws house is not something that happens every day. It happens, you know, throughout the year, but especially during the holidays. What are you going to do to allow a little bit more flexibility? Or maybe if you're the one that has a more, you know, if you can see the irritation with your more, maybe if your grandparents are on the controlling side, maybe you're going to go say, hey, because we're going to grandma's house, she likes order. And she
so
has
set
nice
your
thing.
kids
Yeah.
up for success.
Yeah.
I love that. It goes back to talk to your kids beforehand. We're going to grandma's house, and she likes it when you do it like this. And so let's work hard to love her as she wants to be loved, and saying that. But also, parents, I do give you permission, and we kind of learned this the hard way. I do give you permission to tell the other adults in the room, you know what, let me parent my child, and you just enjoy my child. You just spoil them, and you just love them, and I'll take care of the parenting part. Because I remember our first couple grandkids, all of us were all on them all the time. And by the end of the day, they were having meltdowns because everybody was nagging them all the time. And it was never bad. It was never mean. It wasn't anything like that. It's just, can you imagine going through the day and having 6 or 7 adults constantly telling you, put your shoes on, close the door, put that toy away. I mean, just eat this, do that. And so they're constantly being bossed around all day long. And so be aware of that. If your children have a meltdown at the end of the day, then, love them, spend extra time cuddling them, pray for them, tell them that they're, that they're loved, and
because they probably haven't slept well either.
right.
And they've probably got a sugar high going back to that.
And now low.
Yeah. And they probably haven't eaten really well, and so, or maybe eaten enough. And so just, again, it's like, there's time to come back home and get settled down. When our kids would go to our grandparents, when our kids would do that, it would usually, if they spent, 2 or 3 days there, anytime, not just the holidays,
right.
It would usually take at least a day for them to come back and reorient.
Yes, for sure. And that one day was a really rough day.
Yeah.
Everybody was having meltdowns.
But that's how you approach that as a parent. It's almost like if Suzanne's talking about preparing the kids. What about preparing the parents?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Knowing that that's going to happen.
And being prepared. And I love, in talking to the other parents as well and say, and that really helped us. For example, there's ways you can really influence. Sometimes I know you can't, but a lot of times if you just talk about it and you say, hey, man, I love it when you spoil my grandkids and I want to be the parent in this deal. And so I want them to enjoy, and I hope that you can, I think there is a way for parents to have a lot of influence into environments they're going into,
For sure. Even to have those pre-conversations, whether it's with your kids or your parents or your in-laws or your sisters and brothers. But what you said something about, okay, parents knowing that you're going into that business, how are you going to, take care of yourself? That leads into the next group of questions that people asked us. What does self-care for your kids and parents look like during this busy season? And is that even a thing?
Yeah, is it even possible?
Yeah, is it even possible?
And I think it is, I think one of the things that I think is and you may be a single parent, this may not apply to you, but we're talking to married people when I say this. What if you help each other out?
Yeah.
So often, man, if you can just if mom can get out of the house, go get a Starbucks, go for a walk, whatever it is that would happen, then that's great. Or, hey, just mom says, hey, dad, just go do whatever you need to do, and get away for a little bit. Yeah. So that we have a little bit of time to, it might be a dad, if you got little kids, you might just, take them to Chick-fil-A or something, and get them out of the house for a little bit for dinner so that mom can just have a couple hours to even clean up the house or even get
on
order
top of the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or to, have their, I think those are the ways that's a really good way to have self-care. And for your children, it's like, trying to, slow down the other parts of your life. It's like even thinking about, one of the things we tell parents a lot is, you make your choices before the season starts. Mm-hmm. So, what about now? We may be too late now because we're in December right now, but what about in October when you're deciding that season, usually the winter season, winter sports, winter activities, things like that, maybe you don't need to go to 5 Christmas pageants.
Right.
You don't have to please everybody. You can say, I don't know if we're going to go to, we're going to go to this Christmas deal with the family, but not these other 3.
And that's so good. I'm so glad you brought that up because so many times we think it's going to be so amazing if we bundle our kids up and we around dinner, about dinner time or bedtime and put them in the car and we drive around and look at Christmas lights. Children don't like being in the car. So know that that's probably not an activity for a 2, 3, or 4-year-old. And if you do, just don't plan on going very far. Just go to the next door neighborhood and that's it. And that's enough of an experience for them. I think so many times we exhaust our children with the big, grand event when reality is they would rather be at home playing with you or maybe watching a Christmas movie or they in their jammies cuddled on the couch. And so we give you permission to, if life feels crazy, to say no. I was talking to a friend the other day and she said, my no's not broken. And so I thought that was great. And so we just give you permission to say no to the things and read your family and understand, is it better to just say no to that big, amazing, incredible, wonderful thing, knowing that you'll have an opportunity almost just like it next year, and just retreat and create some peace? Or is it the best, funnest thing that you can do? And by all means, make it happen.
And I think there's things that are, and I think sometimes it's really good as you're looking into this to look at it through the eyes of your child. Because there are things that adults think are really cool that kids don't. I mean, it's the classic, look out the window, kids, look at the scenery, and all they want to do is play a video game because they don't really care about the outside like an adult does. Or, or looking at Christmas lights may get boring to them pretty quickly. And then we get mad at them for being bored because it's really not, but it's really not.
Look at that. That's fun. This is fun. We're having fun.
Yeah. And so maybe you do some adult things, that are, if you want to go look at Christmas lights and you've got a 2-year-old, maybe you get a babysitter.
Right,
and you go look at Christmas lights.
Or go at midnight while they're asleep in the car.
Guess what? That 2-year-old's never going to remember it anyway.
Exactly.
When they're 17, they're not going to ever remember Christmas lights. And so, thinking about, I think so often that we get blindsided by the things that we do, and if we just put some thought into them, then if we literally think about, okay, what in the world, Christmas lights, driving around for 3 hours, we're going to drive, like where we live, north of Dallas. So are we going to drive to Dallas, eat?
We've done it.
With 7 kids. And
1 year we rented a limo to do it, but it snowed, so it got canceled.
Oh, I forgot about that. And, but if they're teenagers, maybe they'll like it more than if they are 4-year-olds.
I love it. And so just know as you're managing the self-care for you and the kids, and you're assessing the situation and you're seeing where everybody is, let's give you something super, super practical. What if you created a code word that when things felt out of control, whether if you feel out of control, or husband, you feel like it's out of control, or even empower your children to say the code word. Maybe it's mistletoe. Maybe it's one of the reindeer's names, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer. And anybody has permission to say that when they feel like, wait a minute, things are spinning too hard, too fast, too much, out of control. And they can say that and let it be a good reset to, all right, let's reevaluate what's happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, even things like when they say that, everybody has to be quiet for 10 seconds. Everybody has to breathe.
Breathe. I love that. Breathe.
Take 3 deep breaths. Now everybody's going to stop and do that. And realize, parents, you're the parent. So often the parents are doing the meltdowns. And it's like, what if we are the parent and we think about and put some life into situations, and just, and really so much of it is if we want everyone to have a good time at an event, we have to come ready to have a good time.
Right.
Instead of being so stressed about all the things that are not happening.
Exactly. Because we come with the expectations that our kids are going to love it and they're going to have a great time. We've got to dress them and we've got to all the different things. And so many times that's just spirals out of control. I was talking to Madeline today, and we were talking about Christmas and just how much fun it is. And she's right in the heart of it. She's got a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an infant. And she was just talking about how much fun babies are. They're just so much fun. And I was saying, yeah, you're right in Christmas, you've heard it said Christmas is for children. And she goes, yes, it's the easiest and the hardest because they're so easy to delight. And so they absolutely love everything that you present to them. And so that's the beauty of a child. But on the flip side of that, as parents, we want to present as much as we can to them to see that delight and to delight them to the point where we wear them out. Because they're delighted because they live at such a high emotional charged space that everything we present to them. So we just want to show them more and more and more and do more and do it. And all of a sudden they're fried. They're completely fried. And then we're annoyed that we're trying to have them a fun time and they're fried. And so just going back to what we've said a dozen times already is just evaluate the things that you're presenting to your child, remembering the whole time that it's not about the experience, it's about the relationship.
Yeah, I think so often, and maybe we can, as we're kind of, we've gone through a lot of questions, you don't have to be like the world. It's like we don't have to compete at Christmas the way the world does.
That's
the world
so
wants to compete with bigger it's all about it's in the moment. It's all about the stimulation,
the things, the activities. Yes.
Think about like, and it really it's the similar pattern to drugs, alcohol, movies, whatever it is. You don't like, after you get a little bit in your system, you got to have more to have the same stimulation. Well, what if we just take it back a little bit, and said, hey, we're going to get you 3 presents, but they're going to be, we're going to really look at what you want. We're not going to have 8 cookies, but we're going to have, the 3 cookies we have are going to be amazing. We try to bring quality into it and slow down the quantity so that we're not so distracted.
Yeah, I love that. And so if we just stop and think for a second to think back to the relationships that you have with your children, the reason for the season, the reason for Christmas is the ultimate relationship, which is with Jesus. And so if we can lay that on the table and see all the activities and all the experiences and all the fun, all the delightful things that we can present to our children, and then we see, okay, where's Jesus in all this? And let that relationship reign above it all. Because when we can teach about Jesus and love about Jesus, and love Jesus and love like Jesus, then the whole season takes on a completely different tone. And it's not chaotic and crazy, which we described it as. And it's not even something that we would need to manage. It's actually something that we get to enjoy because we're looking at it through the lens of, oh, this is when God sent his Savior. This is when God sent Jesus. I mean, and what a sweet, sweet time what a sweet, sweet thing it was that he sent Jesus as a baby in a manger, because the baby wasn't fried. The baby wasn't he didn't send a teenager. He literally sent a baby, which is quiet and squishy. And like Madeline said, babies are so fun. And so that's what we just want to encourage you with, is you're managing your holiday season expectations, to pay attention to the minutes, to pay attention to the relationships with your kids as you're talking to them, and most importantly, to elevate that relationship with Jesus. Yeah,
so we'll end where we started, one day at a time. One day at a time. And it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to, you don't have to do everything. And as you figure out your best things you're doing, and as you look at things through the eyes of your children, when you are willing to talk to your extended family and all the things in order to see the boundaries happen, and you really just relax a little bit during this season, I think you'll find that you will navigate holiday expectations much, much better.
Yes, and so we have a podcast episode 148, What Your Kids Need Most for Christmas. And so if you want to hear a little bit more about that, then you can go listen to that one. Just more about the Jesus part of it, for sure, if you want to be encouraged more in that area. Okay.
And if you want to buy me a Christmas present, you can send it to
P.O. Box. You just set up a P.O. box.
Exactly. No, just kidding. We love you, parents. We hope you come out of this podcast encouraged with some great thoughts as to how to better navigate the expectations of Christmas and your family and yourself. So, as always, go be crazy, parents. crazycoolfamily.com. Thanks for listening to the Crazy Cool Family podcast. We hope this episode inspired and challenged you to invest in your family. We want every family in the world to know about God's vision for their family. To help get the word out, consider taking a minute and giving our podcast a 5-star review and share why you love listening. Or share our podcast on social media with your friends and family. We believe that family is God's idea, so help us spread his vision for family by telling others about our podcast today.